All right, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get started. So, hello and welcome to our From Order Taker to Product Manager webinar. It's brought to you today by Sketch Development. We're so glad you're able to join us for today's session. I'm Brad Wood. I'm a solutions consultant here at Sketch, joined by James Nippert, our VP of Consulting Solutions. And today we're going to walk through what actually separates request-driven teams from strategy-driven teams. It's not theory. It's not frameworks you'll never use. It's the specific habits, conversations, and decisions that let teams build with conviction instead of reacting to whoever yells the loudest. And then we're also going to demonstrate some of these concepts in practice using Jira Product Discovery. And before we get started, just a little bit about us here at Sketch. We deliver consulting services, cloud services, and software development services, primarily oriented around lean, DevOps, and agile product management domains, all while focusing on the human being behind the computer. We are on a mission to transform complexity into clarity. Whether you need custom software, strategic consulting, even training, we deliver pragmatic solutions that allow your teams to work smarter and faster. We're also an Atlassian solutions partner, and we provide consulting and training around the entire suite of Atlassian products. So that's going to include Jira, Confluence, JSM, and even JPD, which we're going to talk about today. You can find more about who we are and what we do by visiting us at sketchdev.io. I'm going to turn things over to James now.
Yeah, thanks, man. Uh, so Brad and I thought it would be interesting to talk today about a scenario that we run into at nearly every single one of our clients that we consult with, either on the Agile, the product management side, the Atlassian side, anywhere where humans are working on complex problems together. And if they've adopted some type of Agile framework or Scrum framework, where you've got this product owner and product manager role. There's a very common problem. And the problem for my product managers out there is you don't really feel like you own your own roadmap. And while there's many root causes that we can dive into, I'm going to just talk about kind of the top three that I see very, very frequently and some of the symptoms around those and what causes those, and then how we actually help companies resolve them. I mean, this is probably the most common one, right? The idea that I'm not really a product manager, I'm more of an order taker. So yes, I get the cool title and maybe even a parking spot if I'm lucky, but I don't have any say so in what my team is going to work on next. I might be able to help break down work and say, I think this epic is 20 stories or this feature is five initiatives or something like that. But the actual decision of what is the next strategic project or initiative that your team's going to work on, that is decided by someone above you, outside of your necessarily even your immediate reporting relationship. And you're not even allowed to not just say no to anything. If you try to say no, you get your hand slapped. And very frequently, what we know, right, if you've seen what good looks like before, that true product managers or even true product owners, you know your product better than anyone else. So you should be able to have your own opinion on what should be worked on. And I mean, we joke about saying no, but no one ever says no. You say no, not right now, and here's why. Here's these other priorities that I want to work on instead, and here's the value proposition for those. For this to work, it requires genuine trust between the product managers and their leaders, right? The easiest way to cut a product manager's legs out from under them is to not back up their decisions if they prioritize their roadmap in a way that makes sense to them. And then someone goes and screams to your leader, and your leader says, go reprioritize. Well, then you don't really have, you're not getting the value out of the product manager role. And very frequently, what I see is people really lean in on the process in this world, where you've got your big room plannings or your PI plannings, you've got your annual OKRs that trickle down to your quarterly OKRs, and everything's supposed to roll up very neatly. But no one's really thinking about what's good for the product yet. So that's that order taker world that I see very frequently. Another one, I see this all the time. We hear like, "Hey, that's a great idea. Add it to the backlog. Just add it to the backlog, and we'll get to it." Um, An interesting thing happens, though, that we're going to dive in a lot today, where there is kind of a built-in assumption, even though it goes against all the frameworks and what all the books say, the backlog. Everyone says the backlog is just a placeholder for future conversations. But something in the human mind, as soon as my idea or my request gets added to the backlog, there's a built-in assumption that at some point it's going to get done. At some point, my team will get to it. And that's just not realistic because we only have so much time and so many people. We'll never get through our entire backlog. We'll always be thinking of more things than we're capable of delivering. So things go into the backlog to rot. I mean, I've seen backlogs as old as 7 or 8 years with thousands of items in there that the person who entered it doesn't even work at the company anymore. Backlog doesn't get refined. We have duplicate work in there. Stakeholders are losing trust because the thing that they care about is just rotting further and further down the backlog, and no one's paying attention to it. And the solution that we're going to dive into today is really exploring what it looks like to have a separate space for product managers to actually ideate in away from the backlog. Just because rather than try to retrain everyone on, hey, just because it's in the backlog doesn't mean it's going to get done. It's much easier to just move that creative refinement and discovery process into a separate space. And then the third one, everyone knows this, right? Death by demand. Maybe you're managing work that has a lot of stakeholders. They all have the thing they want from your team, and they're all different. And if you ask them, they all say it's the most important thing they can possibly do. These product managers spend a ton of time just trying to get everyone to the table and getting people to agree rather than actually managing their own product, rather than sitting down and thinking, what do I think is the next viable thing for this product? And it really becomes a negotiation session or a screaming session or a fighting session. And nowhere in there is there a reflection of what's the most valuable thing for our customer or our user or our business outcomes, because we just have all of these conflicting stakeholders that are trying to prop up their own agenda. So, what I've found here is a lot of people have died on the hill of trying to fix and change these cultural norms, trying to push back on these behaviors, uh, and it's very rarely effective. If that's the world that you're in today, you could try to go and beg your boss to support you and be more autonomous and be more empowered. But I've been finding it's much easier if I follow what my boy Sun Tzu says and just fight the enemy where they aren't. So rather than try to fix a behavior that I don't like in an organizational culture, it's much easier to just introduce a new discipline and take the attention off that behavior instead. So that discipline that we're going to talk about today is something that even today in the year of our Lord 2026, a lot of people have never really seen a formal product discovery discipline before. So what is it? It's really the practice of saying pause before we agree to build something. We're going to think about what we should build, compare it to all the other things we could build, and then most importantly, we decide what we're not building. So if you're really familiar with the Scrum framework, especially, or any type of scaled framework, this happens before and outside of your requirements gathering, your sprint planning. It's not your refinement or your grooming sessions. Discovery happens away from the team, typically away from the delivery team. Before they estimate and they say, how are we going to do this thing? We're stepping back and saying, should we do this at all? And it's a much more high impact experimental space where we're testing out hypotheses. But most organizations, and this is not a new concept whatsoever, but even still today, most organizations that practice that trickle down planning skip this step entirely. They just go off of whatever is next in the Excel sheet. Why this is bad? Uh, there's no room for negotiation here. The roadmap is getting chosen by people who aren't going to have to do the work. By the time those decisions make it to the team, no one has any say in how long it should take or how complex it is. Right? Those are decided on behalf of the team, and then the team is held accountable to those plans. There's not a whole lot of room to push back, and there's definitely no room to push back on the solution and say, is there a better, cleaner, simpler way to achieve the outcome? If we thought about this a different way, because by this point, both the solution, the plan, the design, and the outcome have already been locked in stone. And you need negotiation across all three sides of the iron triangle to come up with any plan that is remotely reflective of reality. if you're not making room for this, if you're not carving out time, if you're never saying no to things, you're not really getting to bring the value that a product manager can bring to an organization. You're just really a queue manager at that point. But I got really curious about this. Why do so many people skip discovery? It takes time. It's time intensive. It is happening away from development and delivery. So a lot of action-oriented organizations will say, we already know what the customer wants. I find that's not true as often as people say it is. It feels slow because there is waste built into it in the discovery process. Sometimes you spend time exploring hypotheses and then deciding that you're not going to do them, you're going to defer them. Is that time waste? If your company treats it like it's waste, and you're measuring output, not outcomes, you're going to feel like that's a very inefficient use of time and it's very expensive time that you could be working on delivery instead. But most common, there's just no space for it. We put all of our ideas straight into the backlog, and they become those semi-locked in commitments. And so the team just starts burning through the backlog with no look back of whether anyone's using the things they're building or whether they're good quality, or whether these are things that we should spend even more time on. We're just on to the next thing in the backlog. All that resulting in we just build wrong really, really fast, and we keep doing it until people take all of our funding away. So, uh, why introduce a new discipline? If I'm saying the fix is rather than try to change your culture and your org structure or your op model, why should we not just negotiate decision rights and change accountabilities and RACIs? It's really, really hard to get large enterprises to reconsider job and title responsibilities. That's usually multi-month, if not multi-year. HR has to get involved. You have to get all the different cross-functional leadership struts involved. So rather than trying to redefine the product manager role as to what you're allowed to do or empowered to do, it's much easier to just introduce a new discipline, teach people about it, have a tool to back it up, and ask the product managers to adopt it. And as they start to adopt it, people will see the value of giving them more and more time for that discipline, to where that discipline gets rolled out organically, without people ever realizing that we're actually changing the product manager job description. So, where to start? You introduce the discovery discipline. You tell people to go Google the thing that I'm talking about right now, or you come find people like me, and say, here's this new process that I want to start spending some of our time on before we get into development. And like I said, even today, this is very novel to a lot of organizations. Unless you have design teams, maybe UI, UX researchers, most organizations have never really adopted this as a formal process. And I always say start with the process, and then have a tool, because there's something about having a tool for it outside of a mural board or a Miro board or Excel. If there's a real tool that actually does it, people feel like it's real and they'll give it the formality that it deserves, which leads us to.
Jira Product Discovery. And that's the tool that we really recommend to help support all these processes and these sort of product discovery types of things that your organization might be doing in the future if you adopt some of these recommendations. And so Jira Product Discovery is an Atlassian tool. It's separate from Jira and JSM and all of those things. It's its own separate application within the Atlassian ecosystem, but it really helps support product discovery. It's a single pane of glass for product ideas. You can connect it back to your delivery tool, so ideally Jira. It's really tailored towards and built specifically for discovery, so not delivery work, but you can connect your discovery items to delivery items. We'll look at some examples of that here in just a little bit. And it really encourages stakeholder negotiation and a lot of that prioritization that James was talking about, and not just like dictating to people, we're going to work on this thing. And we'll see a lot of examples of that in the tool as well today. It also makes product discovery transparent, structured, a collaborative process. Gives us a single location for intake, prioritization, and tracking of our delivery and discovery work. It's really going to help your teams build products that truly matter to both your customers and the business. James talked about making the wrong thing, and I think this is going to help you determine what's the right thing to build and when, and really reduce wasted effort by focusing on those most valuable ideas. And so some of the other key takeaways, why would you want to use this? It helps separate ideation into a safe space away from committed work, gives you that connectivity to Jira for seamless delivery, encourages negotiation, like I just mentioned, not dictation. And then your idea submitters also are going to need to justify their requests. So you can create fields that are required for them to, give reasons why this thing needs to be built before moving it on to delivery, for example. And so I alluded to this a little bit already, but JPD is a little bit different from Jira. So Jira is really our space or our location for delivery work, execution. So, your sprints, your tasks, your bugs, your stories, all that kind of work. Whereas JPD is really tailor-made for discovery, prioritization. So we've got ideas. Those are supported by insights. We're measuring the impact of those ideas, et cetera. Um, and then the kind of the end work stream is JPD is going to feed validated ideas into Jira when they're ready to be worked on. We talked about keeping those out of the backlog, for example, so they don't just rot in the backlog. This gives us that space to have ideas and sort of that pre-delivery work items. And it's not really a replacement for Jira, though. It's more of a complement than anything, and the two tools can work side by side to connect those processes.
Yeah. So how to get this process up and running? It's pretty simple. Whether you have a tool yet or not, like I said, I do recommend it, but you can do this with index cards if you had to. Create a space away from the backlog first. And that's because we don't want to connote that just talking about something is the same as a promise that we're going to do it someday. Just like in Jira or whatever tool you use to, you've got stories and tasks and bugs and defects. There are different work types for the discovery world. We typically call them things like ideas, right? This is a light bulb somebody had, a request that somebody wants from your product or your platform or your service, or just feedback. I love being able to just have a place to submit feedback where even if the person submitting it doesn't have a really well articulated request yet, they're just like, hey, this page is slow to load. I want to know that because I can turn that into a story for my team. Why I want it to be a separate space, I've hammered on this a lot already. I just want to avoid the false expectations. Oftentimes, I will have entire discovery cycles about ideas that we never work, and no one else knows about it, right? My delivery teams don't know about it. My stakeholders at large may not even know about it because I've got this space to make these decisions away from them. Any discovery space that you have, I typically say that's the top of your intake funnel as well. There's no reason why you should have a separate intake funnel for this. Any digital tool will support you doing that now, where you can have a nice connection from your intake funnel directly into your backlog once you've refined the work, discovered it, and agreed that it actually is going to go into your backlog or your roadmap. And like I said, I say that my teams are usually in backlog refinement at least once a week, if not every other week. My delivery team is in this space much less frequently because I'm boiling down, very big picture, big rocks that aren't clear, they're ambiguous, and they're long efforts as well. They're complex efforts. So I'm probably not even bringing my entire delivery team, maybe an architect, maybe a tech lead, something like that. But this is where I spend a lot more time with my stakeholders because these are the higher level outcome improving activities that your stakeholders probably care about. If you never notice, it's hard to get your stakeholders to come to your sprint demos. It's probably because you might be delivering value every single sprint, but it's such a narrow slice of value that it's not enough to move the needle for your stakeholders. That's a sign your stakeholders probably want to spend time talking about the bigger rock, your epics, your initiatives, your features. And that's where we can hang out in the discovery space together.
Yeah, and so with that, let's go ahead and jump over to JPD and we can see some of this in practice in the tool. And like we've mentioned, so JPD, just like Jira, just like JSM, it is organized into spaces. These can be at the team level. You could have a single space for all your ideas. You can define them however makes sense in your organization. But the idea is to separate those early stage ideas from our committed work, which would be over in Jira in the delivery spaces. And so They're organized a little bit differently. Most of what we're going to show today is just completely out of the box functionality. We've got some customizations in here, but not many. JPD is a super flexible tool, just like our other Atlassian tools. And I would even argue it's a little bit more user friendly in terms of the customizations. JPD spaces are going to be organized into views, and we're going to look at all the different view types in this presentation. We're starting here with a list view, and this is just kind of a table or a spreadsheet style view of we've got 5 different ideas in here. You can see they've got a summary, just like Jira work items. And then we've got a number of different fields in here. Some of them are JPD specific. So if you're already using Jira, you're going to notice some different field types. But these can be fully customized, and they can be very unique to your discovery process. So we can see we've got a text field here, the problem statement, and that could be a required field when somebody's submitting an idea, for example, an example. We talked about different work item types, so to speak, in the discovery process. We've got an opportunity field here, and we've got all of our ideas linked to one or more opportunities. So you can create multiple work types and link those together to kind of see how they all relate to each other. Um, this field impact, we talked about that a little bit earlier. This is kind of a fun field in JPD. It's very interactive and user friendly, where you can just click on this and you can change it from high to low or medium or whatever you need to. We've also got voting in JPD, which is really nice and supports that collaborative element. So users can come in here and vote for the ideas they think are good ideas to work on. And you can also limit the number of votes that people have, by the way, which kind of, gives more weight to their votes. Because if I've just got unlimited votes, they're not really that meaningful at some point. We've also got insights, and I'm going to go into this a little bit more in detail later in the presentation, but you can see like this idea, for example, has 4 insights on it. This one only has one. Some of these have none. So if we're evaluating our ideas, maybe the ones with more insights are going to be more impactful to our customers, to the organization, et cetera. And maybe that's going to help us decide what to work on soon. We've got some grouping options up here to help you just kind of reorganize what's in this table. And so you can group by basically any field that you have configured. And that would just basically create swim lanes based on that particular field. You can filter this view. You can sort it by any field, and then obviously control which fields are in the table. And another great thing too is you can create many, many views in your space. I don't think there's even a limit on the number of views you can have. So you could have your own personal view that has just specific fields that you want to look at. Maybe it's your team or a subset of your team, something like that, who's all working in the same space. And we'll actually see an example of a customized list here in just a little bit. So this is just one example of how JPD gives our teams dedicated spaces to organize and explore ideas well before they become delivery work.
Sure. So, step one, we've separated the ideas, given them their own space. And now, what we want to do, just to make sure that we're spending enough time on these before we commit to them, we really want to force clarity before you step into the solution. And this is why I say, like, don't bring in your engineers right away, because engineers just the way they're built, right? They want to start solutioning. Most people also tend to send in requests in the form of a solution. Um, Build me a dashboard, right? Buy me a helicopter, sign me up for a new mailing list. These are things that people are asking for because it's what they've seen before. I like having to step back with the requester and saying, hey, what outcome are you actually trying to achieve with this? What's the problem that we're trying to solve? How is this going to make us money, save us money, improve whatever KPIs you may have, right, to use a buzzword. Don't start with the solution, because if we just did solutions, you would just hand them off to your team and they would just go do them. But step back, understand the actual problem that we're trying to solve. Have we already solved this problem before? Is there an existing tool that we could just use instead? And this really shifts the conversation back from that, when are you going to have it done for me, to like, whoa, hang on. Like, I'm not even promising. We're going to figure out first, should we spend any time on this, or is there a cheaper, simpler, cleaner, more elegant way to do that? especially in your intake funnel again. I always like, I mean, I try to always help people understand sometimes building an intake funnel is more art than science, right? You need some level of detail, but not so much that people have to fill out 100 fields. But this is a great opportunity to force your requesters to have some answers to those, like, do you have a budget for this thing? Is it funded? Does it have a sponsor? Do you know who your users are going to be for this? That way, you don't spend time refining it or estimating it before they've even done any of their basic level homework. And this is a chance to build some of that in.
And we can do some of that forcing clarity within JPD. So let's go ahead and just look at how we can create an idea in this space, for example, and we can see how we can help guide our users or even require users to provide us that information that we need to discern that clarity. So the create screen is very similar to Jira or JSM. Again, you're going to have to choose a work item type, a space for it to be in, the summary, etc. But I think this feature is really, really useful. So this is a description field template that came straight out of the box, and you can see it's called idea evaluation. And we're sort of prompting the user to provide a meaningful and useful description for this idea. So, what's the problem you're trying to solve? What do you think the solution might be? How much do our users want this? And so on and so forth. And there's a number of these out of the box. You can create your own custom description templates as well. And again, I think that's really helpful to guide our users to give us that information that we're going to use to evaluate these ideas. We talked about maybe requiring information as well. So just like in Jira, anything with a red asterisk is going to be a required field to create something. So again, you don't want to have too many fields, like James said, because people just won't fill it out. But having choose those ones that are most important to you to be required, and then make those required when someone is submitting an idea. Another way we can get some of this information that's really going to be useful to us, I mentioned it earlier, is insights. So I'm going to just click into an existing idea. And we have several tabs up here at the top, and we're going to go into our Insights tab. And this is basically external information that is supporting evidence for why we should do this thing or this idea. There's a number of ways to create these, or rather, there's a number of ways there's different types of insights you can make. And so if we click on create an insight, for example, it could just be text. We can add screenshots. We can add links to stuff out on the web, etc. You can vote on the impact of that insight even. So you can say this is really, really supporting this idea, or maybe not so much. It's low or very low. And you can label your insights as well to help you sort through them once you've created several of them on an idea. And we've got a few examples here. You can see a screenshot here, again, some written content, etc. You can connect to Slack with JPD, and there's also not only a Slack app, but a Teams app. And then there's a Chrome extension as well, where you can just grab basically things directly from the web. And it's a very slick interface where you just grab the idea and say, add this content directly to the Insights tab
Yeah, that's a nice
for that
example.
particular idea, making it really easy for people. Um, We'll talk about this a little bit more when we get into workflows as well, but JPD has workflows and statuses just like our work items over in Jira. And we can use like validators, for example, in the workflow to prevent things from moving to certain statuses if certain fields haven't been filled out. And so that's another way to just require that information on the ideas. To really prevent them from moving to delivery without having everything that the delivery team is going to need to do that work. So these are just some of those features again that help ensure ideas are well defined before they move over to delivery.
Mhm. So now we have separated the work, we have forced clarity. Now we're going to use my favorite style of thinking here, which is really just hypothesis-driven development or hypothesis-driven thinking. I like to, especially from my user, if they can't answer this statement, that tells me that this idea really isn't ready for prime time yet. If they can't fill in all of these blank spaces, we believe doing this will produce some type of outcome for a certain set of users. This is like completely objective. There is no ego into it whatsoever. There is no, I'm brilliant, therefore this must be a good idea. Because it's just like the user story format in the sense that you need to know who you're doing it for, you need to understand the expected outcome, and you need to know what it is you're actually doing. This makes it really safe to just kill these ideas. And it's cold and ruthless, and you just say, you know what, this one doesn't make sense. It doesn't hold up. If or even if what happens more frequently in the real world, we're comparing multiple ideas, right? We are trying to prioritize. That's what product managers spend a lot of their time doing. Do I want to run with the idea that will affect 10,000 users or the one that will affect only one user? Well, if I haven't even done enough preliminary work to be able to answer this statement, I can't make that comparative decision yet. So this gives us a kind of chance to stop and look before we leap, and just saying, what do we believe is the expected outcome here? And what are we going to learn from it? I think that's the teams that I see that are having the most fun, and their users are actually looking forward to their next release. Those are the ones where you have really thought through the impact of whatever it is you're going to build.
Yeah, and we can measure a lot of that stuff within JPD as well. So let's jump back over here. We're going to look at a couple more field types, and then we'll look at a couple different views as well. So we've seen some of these. If I just scroll over a little bit, we can, capture the assumed outcome, maybe when the idea is created, for example, maybe our KPI target, we capture then as well. Here's another field type that I think is kind of fun is this slider. And so we're using that for confidence here, and we can just simply slide this to change the level of confidence that we think we have on this particular idea. Um, this risk field has been customized a little bit. So notice the different colors for our drop-down options here. And I think that helps give a visual indicator, not just text, but we respond to color sometimes more than the words we're actually reading. And I think that really helps here. So green is good, red is bad, so on and so forth. We'll come back to these fields here in just a little bit. Um, let's jump to a different view type though. So this is the matrix view, basically an XY view of ideas in your space. You can change what the X and Y axes are looking at in terms of where they're getting their values. In this case, we're using the impact field on the X axis and confidence on the Y axis. And then each of these ideas is kind of represented by a bubble or a circle here. The size is being determined by another field, which is rice score, which I'll talk about in just a second. We've got those same filtering options here that we saw before. And then you've got some cards over here for the actual ideas. So if you hover over one of these, it'll highlight the card on the other side so you can see, oh, it's that particular idea. You can customize which fields are shown on these cards as well. But this is really interactive as well. We can just simply drag and drop these and it'll update our fields in real time. So if I pull this over here, for example, you can see not only did the size of the bubble change a little bit because the rice score changed a little bit, but also those fields impact and confidence changed as well as I move them around in the matrix view. So that can be really helpful for, meetings or PI planning, whatever it might be. If you're going to say, okay, do we think we're going to work on these ideas? Let's do this. And then we can update things in real time and very visually as well. And this is a very visual tool, I think. This is another example of a list view, but this is a view that we've customized. So you can see it's very different fields than what we saw in the first example. And basically, it's just the fields that are being used to calculate the rice score. And so a calculated field type is another really useful field type in JPD. And if I hover over this, you can see that expression there at the bottom. So this calculation is basically reach times impact times confidence divided by effort. Those are the four fields we see here, and I can, again, change these in real time. So if I want to change this to, let's say, medium reach, you can see the score lowered quite a bit. Maybe I'll lower this all the way to low, and that's lowering even further. And then if I do some more changes here, maybe we can get this all the way to like a red number. So that rice score is really low now on Express Checkout. Maybe that's something we don't really want to work on anytime soon. And that's, again, like a metric-driven way to determine what is worth doing soon, maybe later, maybe not at all.
Yeah. And if you're one of those product managers juggling a lot of stakeholders, if stakeholder A has the improved waiting list experience here and stakeholder B has the express checkout, this really takes you out of the hot seat. And I've done this in the room with these real people before. Hey, it's like, hey, I'm just showing you what the score is being calculated as. Help me understand which one of these do we not understand reach? Do we not understand impact? Do we not understand effort? Because that's how we could change some of these values. But it's a great way to make people attack the problem rather than each other. And I mean, anyone can get this, right? Green is good, red is bad, yellow is in between. This is something that you don't have to go through a 2-day boot camp to understand how to use this tool.
Yeah, and metrics instead of intuition, I think,
Yeah.
is the point of something like this here.
Yep. Absolutely. So once you've gotten them to start thinking in terms of hypotheses, the handoff becomes the next most critical part of this process for it to not fall down on its face. N- don't ever set the assumption that everything is going to move from discovery into a committed backlog or a roadmap. You must have evidence gates, and all these are just clear criteria. And these are things that you can publish. These are more than just handshakes. These are actual, think of it almost as the contract to say, yes, this is worth applying engineering time to now. And these are going to be totally related to whatever your unique situation is, whatever's important to your company. But if just looking at the examples that we have here, if a customer hasn't validated the idea yet, maybe we should talk to one of them before we build it. If we can't get anyone to sign up to test it when we think it's done, maybe it's not ready yet. All of this is not necessarily saying this is our way to escape and not do work. This is our way to say this work isn't ready yet. It's not quite baked yet. And this gives the PMs the leverage to say, hey, I would love to move your project out of discovery and into the roadmap, but you haven't responded to any of my emails in 3 months. So I don't know if you're ready to go yet. And suddenly you'll find that your customers and your stakeholders are much more responsive.
And I think we can indicate some of those states of our ideas using workflows and statuses. So it again, it is going to be similar to Jira if you're already using that. So I'm going to jump back into this example idea here, and we can see it has a status. It's in the ready for delivery status. So that's assuming we've fully vetted this idea. It has all the supporting evidence. We've determined as a group or a team or whoever that this is ready to be worked on. And if we click in here, we can, of course, see all of the other statuses that we can transition to. Just like Jira, your workflow is going to be fully customizable. So not just the statuses, but the available transitions between those statuses as well. So maybe it's more of a linear flow. Maybe it's not. In this case, we've just done kind of a simple workflow where any status can transition to any other status, but it can be as restrictive as you need it for your ideation process. And we can also add that to our list view. So if I just scroll back over here, for example, we've got our status drop down here. You can update the status directly from the list view as well. So you don't have to be in the work item view to update the status. You can just do that directly from your list view. And so maybe an example process for your team could be an idea moves to that ready for delivery status or even a done status, something like that. Then it's it's known that at that point we can create that delivery item. And you could do that manually over in Jira. You can automate it between the two tools, which I think is really cool. So an idea moves to X status, create an idea, or not an idea, a work item in a Jira delivery space. So there's a lot of opportunity there to use the two tools in tandem. We'll look at that a little bit more in our last example. But the status, again, is a really great indicator that this idea is ready for delivery. And like we talked about before, you can restrict transitions as well, just like our Jira workflows using validators. So if a field is empty that you need filled in before it goes to the next status,
Mhm.
you can prevent that from happening and really control when those ideas are going to move from discovery over to delivery.
Yep. And that really just to kind of bring it home here, for my product managers out there, if you're interested in this, you may be doing this somewhat organically already. Oftentimes, I'll find carving out some time in your calendar for ongoing refinement. Make sure that you are always applying some amount of time to discovery. This isn't, you don't want to get done with a project and then go back into discovery mode again, right? That puts a significant gap and impact into ongoing delivery and leaves your team kind of wondering what should we be doing right now. You wind up getting them in the discovery process because they don't have anything to do, and then we're once again right back into we're kind of already into the delivery mode. These should be distinct parallel cadences, weekly, if not bi-weekly. You should always be spending some of your calendar time, block it off and protect it, and tell your boss you need help making sure that no one is stomping on it. Just be out there exploring, talking to your users, talking to your stakeholders, thinking about what to do, validating your ideas and your hypotheses. Meanwhile, your delivery cadence is still ongoing. Right, your iterations, your sprints, they're still going week after week, and you need to be available for your team to make sure you can, QA their work or approve and accept their work and be there for the demos and the retros and everything else. But this way, your team always has a continuous pipeline of validated ideas, not just busy work. There's nothing that is sadder to see than teams who are just finding things to do because you haven't been able to spend enough time discovering the right work that they should be doing next.
Yeah, and so speaking of those validated delivery items, how can we monitor the progress of both our discovery and delivery work, and have a way to connect them together? Well, we can do that in JPD also. So we'll go through a couple more views that we haven't seen yet, and then I'm going to show you how to create linked delivery items on your discovery items. So we've got a timeline view. This is basically a roadmap or a horizontal calendar style view of your ideas. Again, you can customize this any way you see fit in terms of your swim lanes, your filters, your sorting, etc., the fields that are on your cards. These can be dragged and dropped, or you can actually increase the length of time that they're going to take by just simply just dragging on the card itself. And something that I really like too is the markers. So you can see we can put markers on really any date we need to on our timeline, and those can represent milestones or anything else that you might need to visually indicate on your timeline. So this is one great view to just sort of monitor the length of time that your discovery items might take. We've also got board views, and these are similar to like a Kanban board that you might be using in Jira, except the fact that the columns can be changed to be determined on different fields. So it doesn't have to represent the status in the workflow. For example, here we're using a custom field called roadmap, and this is almost a right to left style view instead of a left to right view in this example. You can move the columns around if you need to. But in terms of monitoring that progress, we've got this idea that we're working on now. We've got another one that we'll do next. This one's later. We don't know when later is. These two we're probably not going to do. They're over here in the won't do column. And again, you've got those swim lanes and filters, customize the cards, etc. So you could have several different boards in your space, for example, based on different columns. And then I'm going to go back to our Express checkout idea again, and we're going to talk about linking delivery items. So over here in the delivery tab, we've got some information that we'll go through here in just a second, but you've got two options basically when your idea is ready to be worked on. You can either link it to an existing Jira work item, which I don't really think that's what we're discussing here today. We're discussing those work items aren't going to exist until that idea
Mhm.
has really fully been vetted. But maybe an older idea is related.
Hopefully. It doesn't always work out that way,
Yeah.
but
But maybe it's related to an in progress work item
mhm.
or something. Somebody submits a new idea that's, oh, this is pretty much the same thing as what we're already building, but we can link it to that, for example. The better thing to do here is once again, we see this is ready for delivery, just create a new work item. You're going to choose the space, you'll choose the work type. This is pre-filling in the summary based on the summary of the idea, but you can change this. And you can actually embed some of the fields from your idea, which would be the description field. And then this just says and fields. It's referring to your pinned field section. So as you build out this process, I would recommend, anything that's really, really important on your delivery work item, go ahead and pin that field, and then that value will get copied over to your delivery item when you create it. I like this status bar here where we can see we've got three linked work items on this idea. Two of them are done, one of them is in progress, so 67% or two-thirds of them are done. You can also change how that's calculated from statuses to like completed story points, for example. So that can be helpful too. And if your linked work items have any children underneath them, you'll see those here as well. So this subtask isn't really getting included in that calculation here, but it is helpful to see, okay, this linked task does have a subtask underneath it. So there's even more work that needs to get done um, to fulfill that task in this case. The other thing I really like back to our list view is we've got two different delivery related fields. So we have delivery progress, which is pretty much what we were just looking at, that same status bar. And I also like this delivery status field, which is just a simple high level count of we've got 0 linked delivery items in the to do status category, 0 in progress, 7 are done. So this idea is basically fully built at this point, where some of these others are either mostly in progress. We've got some to do work items on this one, for example. So just another way to monitor that delivery work from the discovery side of things. And you will see the linked idea on the Jira work item in your delivery spaces as well. So that's how we can, not only keep discovery and delivery separate, but we can monitor the status
Mhm.
between those two processes together. So our teams are working in separate areas, but everybody's informed and everybody can be updated on progress and things like that by utilizing this tool. All right. So let's check the Q&A section. I think we've got time for maybe one or two questions really quick.
Mhm.
I see one about JPD licensing and how does it work?
Mhm.
So it's very similar to Jira Service Management if you're familiar with that. So you've got paid licenses and you've got unpaid licenses. And our unpaid users can create ideas and do some very limited interactivity with the idea. I believe they can add comments. They'll be able to view the idea once they've submitted it, but they can't update fields or move it along in its workflow, anything like that. Whereas our paid users are going to be able to do everything I was just able to do. So not only create the ideas, but edit them, link them to delivery items, add those insights, and so on and so forth. So you do have the opportunity to open this up to more people in your organization who maybe aren't on your discovery teams necessarily or on your product teams, but do want to be able to submit those ideas.
Mhm.
And I think that's a really great feature and really helps with the cost of a tool like this.
Mhm. Yep.
Great question. Yeah, thanks so much.
It's also nice because, and we're actually doing this with a client right now. You can really start with just a couple pilot teams. You don't need to go and get provisioning for or funding for your entire organization. You can start with, a handful of products, a handful of product managers, get them familiar with it, and then branch out from there as the peer pressure starts to build.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that's great with that approach is if your different teams are evaluating their work differently
Mhm.
or their potential work differently, I should say, your spaces can be totally customized in different ways.
Yeah.
So all those different views we saw don't have to be configured in that way for each of your teams. They can make their own custom fields, their own workflows, et cetera, to really help them evaluate those ideas in the way that makes the most sense for them.
Yep.
Awesome. Let's talk about some of our upcoming events really quickly. So, we have a number of other webinars that we do here at Sketch. Some of them are Atlassian related, some of them aren't. We do have an hour-long Jira Product Discovery webinar that really digs a little bit deeper into the features that we didn't have time to cover today, more use cases, more bells and whistles of this tool. So that one's available. Our webinars are always free. They're about an hour long. We try and do them on Wednesdays. Sometimes that schedule changes a little bit, but you can find that on our website. Additionally, we've got training classes. So again, not just Atlassian training classes. I know James leads a lot of ways of working and
Mhm.
agile coaching, those types of classes. But we do have Atlassian training classes as well. So Jira Product Discovery, Jira Administration, Jira Service Management. Really, if it's in the Atlassian ecosystem, we've got a training class around it. Um, and those are sometimes a full day, sometimes half day, but they're really, really deep dives into those topics. We've got our YouTube channel, which has a lot of again, Atlassian and non-Atlassian related content, including JPD specific content. So just shorter, kind of like niche use case type videos, feature overviews, all that kind of stuff. And you can find those over on YouTube. Just search Sketch Development. And then sketchdev.io is our website. If you navigate over there and head to the events page, you'll
Mhm.
find all of our webinars, upcoming training classes, and a whole lot more. If you want to connect with us, again, here's our website. You can give us a call on a real phone if you'd like to. We're located here in St. Louis, Missouri. Our email addresses are on the screen here and LinkedIn as well. Please don't hesitate to reach out to either of us if you've got questions on product discovery in general, JPD, anything else, ways of working, Atlassian related, etc. Happy to meet with you, try and answer your questions, and see how we could help solve some of your organization's
Mhm.
needs.
Brad 3, huh? There are two
Indeed,
two other Brad out
there
there.
there are, yeah, yeah,
There can
yeah.
only be one. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for taking the time with us today. I hope you got something out of this. If you take anything away from it, just and if this is where you're starting today, just understand product managers don't have to be order takers. Right process and the right tool, you really can take ownership of your roadmap if you pick the right way to approach that change. Don't take it head on. Start with introducing a new discipline instead. Start with the process. Start with discovery, introduce that idea, say, hey, I'm going to start doing this, and then let the tool support the conversation. And you'll be amazed at how frictionless it can be because you're meeting people where they're at rather than trying to get them to change their way of thinking. So thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.